stick, and I want to show you a little trick.
So remember, because you guys have the triangle, to make sure that you get it kind of on the inside to get all of the grated ginger out of there. It may not all fall down, so just make sure that you get it all out of the inside too.
So for me, this little pile of ginger, which is plenty for the oh, okay, now we're back. Hey, technology. My ginger is very wet, so I'm going to take it and squeeze it into this cup of water that I'm going to use later to get the wonton or the wrapper skins. Adding the ginger juice to this water is only going to enhance the flavor of the overall dumpling. So this is a fine thing to do. And rather the water be on the outside of the dumpling than on the inside, because the inside would make it a little too sticky. Does everybody see what I did there with the ginger to get the water out? Oh, right. I was squeezing it into the water. And this is no longer looking like tap water. It looks like tap water with ginger juice in it. And actually, ginger juice happens to be really good for you. It's a wonderful root herb, root vegetable, grows in the ground, deep under the ground, and it's got some great properties for your stomach, your tummy. So I'm going to set this little ball of ginger aside for now. The next thing we'll do is grate some carrots. Actually, are you all ready to go on to the carrots? Or are some of you already doing that? No, not ready. Okay, okay, take your time.
Robin said with ginger, it's really good for your stomach. So when my kids don't feel good, sometimes I make them eat a little piece of ginger just to kind of settle their stomach. Ginger's kind of hot too, so you don't want to just like not just eat this big piece like that.
That's for sure.
It might be a surprise to you.
But some of you may have already had ginger tea, for instance. It's really nice if you have, you know, in the winter, just because, or as Denise said, if you have a little bit of an upset stomach. You know, Ryan, I think it would actually be better if we did go to a view that we could see everybody.
Love the smell of ginger.
Yeah, so good.
So good.
Yeah.
It's just chugging slow.
Okay.
Actually, I make they call it a tincture, but I make a medicine for my family about this time of the year. And ginger is one of the things that I put in because it's antiviral. So I think it helps keep their immune system built so that they won't get sick.
Okay, how's it going with the ginger? You all got that? Now we can see everybody. No, not everybody. Okay. And remember, you don't need to grate your whole piece because that'll end up being too much for the recipe. Yeah. So I probably only did about half. We gave you a big piece because we wanted you to have something substantial to hold on to. Didn't want you to have a little tiny nubbin.
So if you don't use it all or don't grate it all, you can always put it in your refrigerator and use it for another recipe or use it later.
If you take this whole glom and put it into boiling water with some help from an adult and let it sit for a few hours and then strain it and then add some honey, you will have a really delicious drink. So that's something else you can do with this little piece of ginger that's left. Okay, did everybody get their ginger done?
Yeah.
We're gonna move on to the carrot. Now I see some, okay, you see that? You can put your knives down. You don't need your knives for this. The carrot, I would start with the wider end, the fatter end of the carrot. And on this one, you're gonna go to the bigger holes of your grater. And just up and down again, remember that you want to watch your fingers. Always keep your fingers away from the sharp edges. And these grated carrots look like the kind of carrots you'd have in coleslaw or in any kind of salad, carrot cake even. This is my favorite size of the grater. I use this larger size for cheese and all kinds of things, but it's perfect for grating carrots. And when you get down to the close to the end, when it appears that your fingers are too close, then guess what?
Hey,
You got to eat the
I'm
carrot.
ready to eat.
You'll get the next piece. Very sweet. Okay. So you want to grate your carrot, and it does make a bit of a mess, which you'll be responsible for cleaning up later. There you go.
Thank you. Got my carrot.
Really sweet, isn't it?
How's that going? You guys look like you're doing fantastic.
Yep. Just watch those fingers, knuckles and
Be really
fingertips.
careful, yeah. Are you getting a pile? You know, sometimes when you're doing it, you have to wipe it off because it might pile up on the backside.
So I have a bowl here, and I'm going to drop my carrots into the bowl, and I'm going to take my ginger and kind of pull it apart a little bit as I drop that into the bowl. It's all going to get mixed up later, but now I have more room on my cutting board. Okay, I see some serious grating going on there. Nice work. I see some eating going on there. Nice work. So at Christopher's house, if you want to take your carrot and make it sideways so the entire length of the carrot is on the grater and then go up and down that way, you'll have more effectiveness as you're grating. Yes, there you go. You should be able to push hard enough and be able to go up and down. And some of you in your kitchen, you may have an electric food processor that you can just, drop your carrot down in a
Yep, you can eat that.
Yeah, those of you who have little pieces left
Right.
over, there you go.
Yeah. That's a good thing about cooking too.
You
That you get to eat along the way.
Yep.
As you're
Yep.
tasting, as you're preparing the different ingredients.
I have had times where I've made dinner, and by the time my guests arrived, I wasn't hungry anymore because I've tasted some.
Especially like at Thanksgiving or something, when you're tasting, when you're making a
Oh,
really
sure,
big meal.
sure.
And you taste everything.
I see some carrot grating going on still, but how are you moving along there? Okay. Okay.
You guys are doing great.
Yep. When you're done with your carrot,
What are you saying at the Ward House?
right? See,
You can't hear us?
Oh, I was asking what this ginger is for.
The rest of the ginger's for. The rest of the ginger's for.
oh, the ginger's going to go into your bowl. That's going to become part of the filling for the wonton or the dumpling. So that great, and you know what? If you don't like ginger and you don't want to put it in, you don't have to. But it does add a really unique flavor that, because this is a dish from Asia. So in Asian cooking, ginger is a very common flavor. But if you don't want to use it, you don't have to.
But now what we're doing is we're getting all your ingredients together. So that's gonna go into your recipe.
Right.
So we're preparing.
So we have the carrots and the ginger in the bowl for now. That's the end of the grating. So the next thing we're going to do is thinly slice the red pepper. So you've all received a small paring knife in your cooking kit. And this red pepper was grown by a local farmer. I just picked these up yesterday. He harvested them on Thursday, and then we got them yesterday for your folks to pick up. So I want to just remind you of a couple of things. That paring knife that you have, while it's small, it's very, very sharp. So anytime you're working with knives, it requires your full attention. Can't be distracted. Knives are not in any way meant to be played with. So you probably already heard this, but I feel like it's important to remind you again. We have the top of the pepper that we're going to start with. So with the sharp knife, pepper on the cutting board, and you can all see this, right? Let's see, right there, pepper on the cutting board. You're going to just make one cut through and take the top off. And if there's an adult there that wants to help, by all means, that is fine with us. We definitely like the adult oversight. Yeah. Okay, so before we deal with the big pepper, let's look at this top. So this is a lot of edible pepper. We're just gonna move the top around a little bit so that we can pull out the center. This is the bottom part of the stem. This is what held the pepper onto the pepper plant. We're not going to want to eat this. It's very fibrous, but you're left with edible pepper. So we're going to slice this in a minute. And if it breaks, that's okay, because we're going to be cutting it into smaller pieces anyway. Okay, so yeah, you've got what looks like a little flower with a hole in the center. Everybody got that? Now you see the inside is where the seeds are holding on to the pepper. You can just reach your fingers right in and pull that core out, and that's going to remove the seeds. Sometimes there's some white stringy material inside the pepper. You can remove that as well.
So what I do is take these seeds and let them dry out, and then we grow them again for next season. So you guys know that the seeds that you have, if you keep them, you can grow them and make more peppers. And just one pepper, look at all the seeds that's in that pepper. So one pepper can grow lots of seeds, 50 to 100 peppers.
Sure.
And you can put it in, if you have a little flower container, you can put the seeds in that and it'll grow in your house. And
Right.
you'll have peppers.
Right. You can stick it in the window near some sun. Peppers do require a lot of heat, a lot of warmth and sunlight to grow. But if you do that, you will see flowers forming on your peppers. And let's just take a minute to talk about that, because if you take these seeds and let them dry and put them into some good soil in a pot near a window, they will eventually sprout, germinate, and then grow into a plant. If that plant begins to flower, what's the difference between growing something inside your house with flowers and growing something outside with flowers? Does anybody know what I'm looking for in terms of growing edible food?
She said it.
Bees.
We can't hear you, but did you, I think you're saying what I think.
Bees.
Bees, yeah,
Yes.
you said bees.
So there hopefully aren't any bees inside your house, right? So I grow food in a greenhouse in the winter, which is similar. I go out into the greenhouse with a Q-tip and I touch the Q-tip to the inside of the flowers, and I touch all the other flowers on the plant with that Q-tip. And I'm actually pollinating the plant in the absence of bees, because bees would do it if we were outside. But since I'm inside in the winter, that's what I do. So that's something you can think about. If you take these seeds and grow a pepper plant out of it, which is perfectly doable, you can use a Q-tip them to do the bees work. And then once it gets warm enough next summer, probably want to wait until about May, then you can bring that pepper plant outside. So now you have a pepper that actually, the reason mine has the bottom cut out is that I started making this before you all got on the Zoom with us, but you've got a pepper and now you have no seeds. It's pretty big. You're going to want to cut it in half. Again, very careful with that knife. Cut it in half so you have two pieces. And now you're going to make very thin slices, super thin slices, as thin as you can make it. You always want to keep your fingertips tucked away from the knife. And again, it looks like you can see this in the video. My fingertips are tucked far away from the blade. And you see, I've got these thin slices. Some are thinner than others. Once you do a couple thin slices, why don't you hold them up so we can see what yours looks like?
Yep.
Good, good. So if yours are a little bit thicker than these, which is perfectly fine, now we're going to want to take them and cut them in half. Because the long slices would be too much for a bite, too much for a mouthful. So now I've got them even shorter than they were. And actually, I think I'm going to cut them one more time.
So there is no right way or wrong way. It's all like we always tell you, it's your preference. Whatever your family likes, they might like bigger pieces, they might like smaller pieces, they might like medium pieces. So there's no wrong or right way. It's all in what your preference is and what your family and your taste, what you want.
Absolutely. And going back to the top of the pepper, just going to slice that thinly as well, keeping my fingers away from the blade.
In your recipe, it says that the large pepper is minced. So like Miss Robin was telling you, minced is when it's smaller. Minced means that it's smaller, like when we did the ginger, that's when it's minced, you know. We're just cutting it instead of grating it and making it that way now.
So I'm just going to add a few more slices. Chop mine into smaller pieces with this batch. And that's going to go into the bowl.
How are you guys doing? Or is that coming okay? Yeah, great. Good, good.
And then whatever is left over, if there's any left over, you can eat it raw because this is a sweet pepper. It's not hot in any way. It's very delicious. Peppers are one of the most powerful summer plants that we have. It's a very, actually a fruit technically because it's got seeds, but it has so many vitamins and minerals in it. So raw peppers, because these are sweet, are really nice. You can have them in a salad. You can eat them dipped in ranch dressing, any way you want to have them. So we'll pause for a moment until you catch up with your peppers.
They taste very good and they're very good for you. I see a lot of people chewing. Yeah. Tastes good.
Such a distinct flavor. Very sweet and yum. I love these. How's everybody doing with their peppers?
Good.
Okay, so we're good, ready to move on, it looks like. Excellent. Okay, so now we're going to transition to using the bigger knife. So this is where I'm going to invite your adult to engage at whatever level is necessary. And we're going to work on the cilantro. So you all got cilantro. We wrapped it in a paper towel because we wanted it to be dry for you this morning. And you can see that it's individual stems. Sometimes cilantro gets a little bit funny looking, like I'm not sure what all you can see, but these are a little bit brown, some of them. So we're basically going to run our fingers along the stem and pull off the leaves. Now cilantro has a distinct smell as well.
I absolutely love the smell.
So do I.
When you guys smell it, is there anything else that you guys might think cilantro is in, or you've seen your mom or someone who's cooking using cilantro? No?
Well, so if you take the top of the stem and work your fingers down, you can just pull the cilantro right off the stalk. And you're just going to want to set the leaves in a pile, and we're going to chop those after we get enough leaves. Oh, sure. And if you come to a brown leaf, then you don't have to take that off the stem. You'll set that aside, and either you can compost it, or I guess eventually would end up in the trash, which so you want to have a pretty goodly pile of cilantro before we chop, and you don't have to use all of what we gave you. We probably gave you more than is necessary for the flavor, but this also has a very unique flavor. And there are many recipes that call for the stems being chopped up with the leaves. On a personal level, my preference is to not use the stem because it's a little bit fibrous. So I prefer the leaves to come off the stem. But again, as Denise said, it's whatever your family preference is. Any of you who have been to a Mexican restaurant, you would be familiar with cilantro because it's in salsa, it's in guacamole, it's often used as a topping for an enchilada or a taco, something like that. When you're ready with your pile of leaves, give us a heads up. You can set the leaves pile down on your cutting board. And this is a chopping knife. Yours, yeah, okay, so I see that some of you have one very similar. Again, because we use these in the kitchen here all the while, this is a very sharp knife. I'm assuming yours is as well. There's definitely a technique to chopping, and I'll have, again, parents use your own best judgment, but you hold the knife firmly in your cutting hand. So whether you're hold a pencil with your right hand or your left hand, you want to hold it in the hand that you write with. And the other hand is used to hold the tip of the knife down, not push hard, but just kind of anchor it. And then you move the knife down. In this case, it's my left hand that's keeping the knife from bouncing on the cutting board. And I am just moving along my pile back and forth. My fingers are well away from the blade, and I'm chopping these cilantro leaves. You want to try never to pick your knife up and move it back and forth on the cutting board, because that leaves room for fingers to get in the way, and it also dulls your knife. So if you use your non-writing hand to hold the knife in place and then just gently move the knife back and forth, it shouldn't slide, it shouldn't wildly move, and you can see that your cilantro is chopping. I can see some of your technique just because your camera's not on all your hands, but it's looking really good and safe right now.
Yes.
So at Nora's house, if you want to move your fingers a little bit away from your blade, your left hand, you see how my hand, my fingers are actually pointing well away from it. There you go. And just use the heel of your hand to hold that tip down. Perfect. Really nice. Everybody else comfortable with this? And you know, you can rock back and forth. I see some of you doing that. That also works. I don't know if you've ever watched a cooking show, but boy, those professional chefs, they can move these knives at lightning speed. I'm not good enough for that. Okay. So I'm going to take my spoon, which happens to still be around, and I'm going to gently move the rest of the cilantro leaves off the knife. You would never want to touch that knife with your fingers to do what I just did to move the extra leaves that stuck to the blade, because your fingers could then by mistake get nicked. And then when you're all done with the cilantro, we're going to pop that into the bowl.
It's coming together real well.
Yeah. And you can see how pretty it looks in your bowl as well with all the gorgeous colors we have in there now. Remember, one of the things I said, I think from the very beginning, is eat the rainbow. When you see all those colors, you know you're getting lots of healthy food.
You know what? These look like fall colors. With the
That's a good point. It looks pumpkin-y. Yep.
Yeah.
Okay, we're gonna finish our chopping with the cabbage. And again, this is a little bit different than, at least I would assume it's somewhat different than what experience you've had at home. This is a Napa cabbage. You could certainly use a green round head of cabbage or a purple round head of cabbage. Those cabbages tend to be a little peppery flavor. I love both of those cabbages, but this recipe called for Napa. Napa, it originates from an Asian word, Nappa, which I can't pronounce because I don't know how to speak that language, but that refers to leafy foods that we eat. So the Napa cabbage, a lot of people think it must be grown in Napa, California, but that's not what that means. It is referencing the fact that these are leafy greens. So we're going to set it on its side so it's solid on the cutting board.
Also about the Napa cabbage, they use it because we're making an Asian dish. This is the type of cabbage that they use with Asian dishes.
Yeah, yes.
Yeah, and it's kind of the same as the regular round cabbage, it's just elongated.
Yes.
So,
Yep. And the leaves are a little bit different, but it did originate in Asia, in China, actually. Yes. Everybody ready? Again, this has got requires the big knife. So you curl your fingers so that they're back from the knife, and then you're just going to make gentle cuts so that I'm getting these shreds of cabbage. We're going to come back at this later once we get our slices. So thin slice.
it looks like you did your pepper, just
Yeah,
kind of
yeah.
a thin slice.
And then once you have it thin, yes, nice. I can see Nora's got great technique there. Vigo, are you still, did you already chop yours?
No, we're washing it because that's caterpillars on it.
They're washing.
Oh, okay, okay.
At Eden, you guys are doing good too.
Yep. All of you are doing really well. Oh, look at you.
Good job.
Over at William's iPad, and pardon me, hon, I don't know what your name is, but I see you've got your cabbage in the bowl. So once the cabbage is sliced, now I'm going to use that same technique with my heel of my left hand on the top of the knife to keep it still, and I'm just going to move the knife back to make these cabbage pieces a little more bite size. So it's not just a long sliver. So now it's kind of like cabbage confetti. Got little pieces. Oops. Nice technique, everybody. And you don't have to cut it all. Again, it's a lot of cabbage, probably more than you need for this recipe. You're welcome to, but you don't have, pardon me, you don't have to. And I want to show you a little something of interest with the core of the cabbage. We'll do that in a minute. I'm gonna put this cabbage into the bowl as well. Nice technique there, Vigo. I see that. I like the way you're holding that knife down. Everybody looks great. And when you've got your cabbage chopped, you can add it to your bowl. While you're finishing up, I want to show you something that you may have already experienced and maybe not. So this cabbage, because it still has part of the root attached to it, this is where it came out of the plant. It could grow into additional cabbage. So I wanted to point out to you that if you stick it in a jar, and I'm just gonna have to shave a little bit off here to make this fit. So I have stuck this cabbage bottom into the jar of water, and I will refresh this water so I won't let it get below the root line. And after a couple days, I will see sprouts come out of where the plant went into where the cabbage went into the plant, and this is going to create new roots, and we can actually grow additional cabbage that way. You could take this then and put it into a soil sack or right into the ground, and you can have your own cabbage plant. And if nothing else, it's really fun to watch over the winter. Again, you want it to be in a sunny window because you'll see new cabbage leaves grow out of here. Has anybody ever done anything like that before with cabbage or with carrots? Right, you can do the same thing with carrots. So some of you have that experience, great. I just wanted to show you that for fun. If you don't want to do that and you're composting, you can compost the rest of this cabbage, or you can chop the rest of it up and put it in a salad. Okay, so we have now the cabbage, the peppers, the carrots, and the ginger in the bowl. And you can see how pretty this looks. Is everybody caught up? Because we're going to do something just a little bit tricky, a little bit different, but it's a wonderful skill set for you to have. And some of your adults may know how to do this and some may not. So the recipe calls for an egg white. I think you all know what the yolk is. The yolk is the yellow part of the egg inside, and the white is the clear part. So there's a wonderful way of getting the white out, separating it from it. It's a skill that takes a couple times to practice. So I'm going to hold the egg carefully. Oh, thanks. And I'm going to gently tap on it with the flat end of a butter knife. I'm going to do that all the way around. I'm creating a thin crack in the knife.
Tapping in a little.
I'm just tapping just a little bit. And I'm going all the way around the egg. So I've got a very thin crack around the egg. So you want to gently rotate the egg to get the white, or to get the crack all the way through. Okay, so when you've got that crack all the way through without having done it, because right now it's still intact,
Make
but
sure
I
you have
have
your
the
little
crack.
bowl underneath your egg before you open it up. Yeah, make sure you get a little bowl.
Well, actually, the yolk, that would be fine. So now I'm going to pull this apart carefully. And I'm going to tip it a little bit to be sure that the yolk stays in
In the
one
shell.
side of the shell. So I have the yolk inside this shell and all the white came out into the bowl. So you can then go from one side to the other to be sure you're getting all of the white out. I don't know what that looked like on your end in terms of being able to see.
I can't see you guys.
We have apparently a little moment here. Here we go. So this is definitely a tricky technique. And because we're not baking some fancy French pastry, if a little bit of yolk gets in the white, it's not the end of the world. But if you practice this often enough, it's a great way to learn not only your fine motor skills, but it's really kind of a mindful practice in cooking that you can just get the yolk out and keep the white. So the egg white is going to get dumped into mixture, but I want to say one more thing about this yolk. If you have a dog, please raise your hand if you have a dog. Some do, and maybe not everybody does. So if you have a dog, this yolk would be very much appreciated by your dog. You can let the dog eat it if that's okay with your adults and all that. But if you aren't going to do that, or you don't have a dog, you can save this yolk. And next time somebody in your family makes scrambled eggs or an omelet, you can just add that yolk, put that in the fridge. In other words, you wouldn't want to waste it. You don't want to throw that yolk away. Make sense? Okay. So we're going to mix that egg white in here. The recipe says use your hands, which you certainly can. Go ahead, because it's going to sticky already. We're going to add a little bit of salt and pepper. It comes out pretty quick.
Just a little bit.
Yep, and a little bit of salt. No, that's good. And then the last thing we're going to add is a little smidge of sesame oil. Now you all got a container with sesame oil. And again, this is something that once you open the lid, you can smell it right away. It's got such an, to me, I think it's got such a nice smell. And you're going to mix in your sesame oil. Okay, we're ready to assemble, but I want to wait for everybody to get caught up so that you have your mixture of all your vegetables, your egg white, your sesame oil, and your salt and pepper. When you get that all mixed in, we'll move on to the next and final step, which will be assembling the wonton or dumpling.
Get that wooden spoon out and mix it all. Come on.
We can mix it with our hands.
Yeah, but you're not getting it all in.
Do we mix the peppers in?
Not yet.
While we're waiting for everybody to be ready, you can get out your package of wonton sheets or dumpling sheets if you haven't already gotten that out. Sure. How's everybody? Are you ready for assembly? Yep, looks good, looks good. Okay, so these wrappers for the dumplings were new to me. I've not used them before. They're very thin and you have to peel them off carefully. They definitely peel off easily, but they will also have a tendency to stick together. So peel one off. And if it tears, I mean, obviously this is a lot more than you'll probably be using today. But trying not to waste anything, you want to peel one off at a time. And set it on your cutting board. Perfect, I see, good. Everybody got their wonton sheet out? Nice going at Avery's house, I see that. You did that well. Okay. So you'll take your wrapper, lay it down. Take out, it says a tablespoon. You can use a tablespoon if you'd like, or you can just eyeball it. You're going to set some in the center of a sheet. And then you're going to dip your fingers in your water. And remember, I squeezed the ginger juice in here. So this is now ginger water. Going to run it along the edges of the wrapper. And that's going to activate the flour in here just a little bit. So it makes it sticky. So you go around the whole square. And then you're going to bring up the corners together. And then because it's wet, when you squeeze it together, it'll stick.
Wow. I want to try it.
Sure.
Okay. So you said set it on the board.
Yep.
With a little teaspoon.
And if you ended up putting a lot of filling in or more than if it seems like it doesn't want to fold all the way, you can roll it into a tube shape. You know, this
Like
is
an egg roll?
yes, you can roll it into a tube shape. Yep,
Wow.
exactly.
That's neat.
Yep.
Now I bet it, right?
Yep. You wet all four corners, all four edges. Very nice. I see. Good work. Very nice. Yes, they look great. And they don't, you know, I mean, the pinch is what's going to help hold it together. Whoever is helping in the kitchen, you can preheat your oven now to 325. And you're going to keep going. Again, I do believe you're going to have more wrappers than you have filling for, but there's Denise's. Very nice.
I think I'm gonna roll them.
There you go. Try
Do you
it.
think I should
But
wet
try-
the edge?
I think you still should help it stick. But give it a try. And then you're going to set that once you make a bunch of these, we gave each of you some parchment paper. I baked these earlier this morning to see how they would come out. And I found that it was better to take some oil and put it on the bottom of the wrapper to prevent it from sticking. So you see what I'm doing? I'm just taking a little bit of the sesame oil, rubbing it on, if there's any left, and if not, you can use olive oil, whatever oil you have. I'm putting it on the bottom, and that's going to go onto the paper. And I'll do the same with Denise's to prevent it from sticking. And Denise is doing a great job rolling that up.
Trying to. Too much a little bit. But that's okay.
Uh-huh.
Yeah, I should pinch the hands.
Sure. Now, in some restaurants, these would be dropped into a deep fryer. But I liked this recipe because it called for baking. We could certainly put these in a skillet with some hot oil, but again, it's just adds a little bit of a challenge with sputtering oil and such. So I did like this because it would go into the oven. So these are the ones that I made earlier. We baked them. Yeah. In fact, let's each, Denise and I, if you want to open up one of these dipping sauces. Remember the bottoms come out of the way. So this is what it looks very similar baked, except it's hard and crunchy and you can dip in. Now your recipe says to eat these hot out of the oven. These are about an hour out of the oven, so they've gotten cold.
Very good.
Very tasty though. Very
Very
tasty.
Ours aren't sticking.
Okay,
Ours
where
aren't,
are you?
Williams, Sam?
ours aren't sticking. to-
Williams? We can't.
No, we can't.
Instead of the truck.
Right. So again, when you make it, it's just a matter of kind of pinching it.
We
You
are.
know, and if it's wet enough, you can also dip your fingers back into the water and add a little more water to get that to stick. It's the water that will make the flour sticky.
There.
Are there supposed to be like holes in the top, or is it just supposed to be like a whole thing?
Whoever,
If it tears in half, it's okay.
Okay.
You can start it.
If there's supposed to be holes in the top, or it's supposed to be completely closed.
if it's completely closed, that's fine. And if there's a little bit of a hole in the top, if it kind of tents open, that's also fine as well.
And out. 'cause it's
Again, if
taking-
we were dropping it into oil and the top was somewhat open, that vegetables would maybe fall out a little bit, but since we're gonna bake it on a sheet like this, it should not matter that there's a little bit of opening on the top.
There you go.
What other
Mama.
questions might you have, anybody? Everybody?
Okay.
We're gonna need a baking sheet.
I know that this recipe is a little bit trickier just because not only did we do a lot of prep, but these wrappers are a little bit different to work with. It was new to me as well. Any other questions? You're going to put this in the oven at 325 for about, I did bake them for about 10 minutes. And then they'll be, let them cool enough so they aren't dangerous to pick up. And then you can put them into your dipping sauce, which is also very flavorful. And then you've got yourself a nice little dumpling.
Yeah, and just keep making them. I see you guys are making them, and
Yep.
you're just gonna keep putting them on your sheet.
Yep, you can bake as many that will fit on your sheet.
Oh, those look nice.
Oh,
you
nice.
made egg
Yes.
rolls. Oh,
So
cool.
at Avery's house, they made an egg roll shape and just folded over the triangle. Would you show that one more time? And some of the kids might find that easier.
And it
so-
looks like you did it.
It's rolled long and then you used your corner to tighten it all up. Hold it all together. Really nicely done. We all learn something from each other, don't we?
Yeah. And there's always different ways to do your recipe.
Mhm.
Oh, okay, so they wrote it like that.
Yeah. Oh, look at you tucking it in the sides and everything.
Yeah.
Avery, I have to say that your technique is certainly is going to hold that together really well. Way to
Good
go.
job.
Yep. Very clever
I
on
like
your
your
part.
creativity.
Yes.
Yeah. That's what cooking and recipes are all about. It's being creative and putting things together to come up with the end product that is
Yep.
magnificent.
How's everybody else doing? Okay.
That's
When
great.
you have these baked and you're enjoying them, if you want to take some pictures and send those either to the library or to Urban Seeds or Legacy Taste of the Garden, that would be
Please do.
lovely. We'd love to see them. Very nice. Otherwise, we want to wish you the best on finishing this up. We're coming up to 12 o'clock, so we'll be signing off, but we'd love to hear how this worked out. Again, I really admire all of you for trying a little bit of a harder recipe this time. You looked like you were safe with your knives, and you did a great job with the grating. And now you're creatively rolling, wrapping, pinching with your dumpling wrappers. Way to go.
It all looks so great.
Mm-hmm.
And you guys need to know that your inspiration, when you show your pictures, what you guys are doing is so much inspiration to other youth and other kids.
Yeah, yep,
And we're so happy.
Yep.
This was so fun today.
it was. Thank you. And we'll look forward to seeing you next month. We hope we're going to make some pickles and a side dish.
Say thank you.
Thank you.
Can you, if you have a question, could you type it in the chat? I'm sorry, we're not able to hear you.
Yeah.
I think you said thank you.
Oh,
Okay. Yes, thank you
Thank
guys.
you.
This was so
Bye. Thank you.
fun.
Yep.
Thank you.